So what's the proper way to pronounce your name?
Ulysses.
Ulysses. Okay.
Yeah.
Sweet,
Yeah.
man.
Some people say it like horribly wrong. Like I went to McDonald's once and they wrote down useless. So yeah, I know.
Oh my gosh, dude. Are you serious?
Yeah, yeah.
All right, Ulysses. Sorry, dude.
It's all good.
I stuttered right there, man. Ulysses, man. Super excited to have you on here. I'm trying to think. I was in some Facebook group, I think, and that's where I first saw you. And you were posting about some of the publication success that you had. And we started to connect and figure out, different ways that we could work together. But before we get into actually what you do, we're broadcasting this to 60,000 different registrants,
Nice.
of which roughly 20 or so thousand are watching it live. A lot of them are going to have stories similar to everyone else that has been on here and will be on here. They weren't born into privilege. They don't have a celebrity parent, etc. What's your story? What's your background?
Yeah, so I grew up in a small town called Grandview. Like probably the max amount of people that live here is like 10,000 people. So like I was telling you earlier, you don't hear about like making it in life or having like the fancy cars or the big house or anything like that. So yeah, it just never popped up in my head until I saw like a very lifestyle video, like, Ty Lopez, where he's like, yeah, here in my garage, and he kind
Yeah.
of showcases like house and big cars
Yeah,
and all that type of
100%.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I saw that at the age of 17. I didn't see his ad, but I saw a similar type ad. And, at that point in my life, I was like, dang, like he was showcasing, he had like a beautiful wife, big house, like fancy cars. And he's like, essentially he told me, if you look over my shoulder, I'll show you how to become like a multimillionaire and all that type of stuff. And at the time I didn't have the money to like pay for that. But what it did is like, it introduced me into like online marketing.
Okay.
Right. And then, so after that, then I just kind of did my own research. And if you do research on like online marketing, you're bound to find this one guy named Neil Patel. Like this
Yeah.
guy dominates the search engines.
Mm-hmm.
So after I was doing like my research, I just kind of made a decision one day. I was like, damn, because I kept seeing this guy over and over and over. You read other blogs, but they're like agency type blogs and stuff. So when I was reading his content, there was always a face to it. So I just kind of made a decision, like one day I want to be the Neil Patel of like my industry. So after that, I just, and then I found PR, and then that's how I started getting into like publicity and stuff like that.
So what time frame was that? How many years did that take?
It took, so like this is my first year in business,
Okay.
for publicity. But before that, I was, I was crushing it in like conversions and helping people, get email subscribers and like doing all that type of stuff. And I was still helping these influencers. So when I was doing that, then I kind of became a contributor to like Entrepreneur, to Success, to the Huffington Post, to like all these big websites. And then from there, I transitioned into like PR. Because then I saw like there's a big gap. Like the PR space is very, very unsaturated. Like if somebody was to get like, if you tell them if you tell somebody you can get them on Forbes, they're just looking to buy. Like they're not looking to be sold anymore. They want to buy.
Yeah,
It's just if they can afford it.
yeah.
Right. So like for me, it's not hard to close deals. It's just if I can hit that right like the right price point where like I have huge profit margins and they still win.
Yeah, gotcha.
Right.
Well, so tell everyone watching what it is that you do, because we're alluding at PR, Forbes, Entrepreneur.
Right.
What is it that you do?
So I help entrepreneurs get featured on these major publications that, you've heard of probably. So like Forbes, Inc., Entrepreneur, the Huffington Post, the Next Web, Fortune, Fast Company, a bunch of these big websites. And we've kind of expanded a little bit to like TV. We've gotten people on national TV, and we made introductions to like Shark Tank. But other than that, we've kind of niched down into like the major publications. So if anybody want to get featured, have their name in the lights, if they have a product that they want to get out in the world, like we help do that. And we also help people become contributors. So if they want to like, if they want to become an expert in their field and write for a publication for their expertise, like we help them do that as well.
So how does this affect people in e-com? Because I'll give you an example. We've got basically 3 different groups that are attending this virtual summit. We got people who are really successful brick and mortar, maybe 1 to 20 mil EBITDA, but have nothing to do with the online world. And then we've got the generation of online marketers, right? The guys who are making from zero to a couple $100,000 a year, kind of living the digital nomad life, way more than you need to live in most places of the world. But then we've got that next step, the people who are making 7 figures who are trying to get to 8, or 8 figures who are trying to get to 9. And
Right.
so, whereas being on radio, TV, commercials, and publications was something that was really mainstream for brick and mortar 20 years ago, it's just it's like it was this forgotten art that is now only being resurrected. So what does that mean really for someone in e-com, whether on Amazon, their own brand off of Amazon, etc., info products? How does the PR and what you do really help them, and what advantage does it give them, as opposed to just paid traffic or organic driving traffic, through other methods?
Right. So there's a couple of things. One, it helps massively with conversions. Like same thing, like if you're a service provider, if you can tell somebody that, your company has been featured for this type of service, they're more likely to choose you over your competitor, right? If they see that a product has been featured on like Forbes and all these big publications for doing a certain type of thing, whatever you're trying to sell, like that angle, it's going to help you with conversions. Now, another thing that it helps with is investments. So I have like an actual case study of a client of ours called TravelMate Robotics. So they sell like an autonomous suitcase that kind of follows you around the airport. And they sell like their product online and stuff like that. And what they did is like initially they didn't have much press. They hired us. We got them featured on the Huffington Post. And then as a result of that, they got a surge of media traffic from CNN, Viral Thread, Tech Insider, Business Insider, all these big publications that got them millions of views. And because of that, they got a bunch more sales, and they were able to get investments and all that type of stuff. And then they rehired us again. And then now we got them on Forbes and stuff like that, because getting on these big publications can give you the access to like millions and millions of people. And like, it's a real, like it happens to one of our clients. So it's not just something that's like taboo. Like if you have a killer product, and even if you don't have a killer product, if you're selling something on e-commerce, right? And it's just a normal product, you can easily get featured if you have a way of like you're converting your customers, or if you're crushing it with that one product and stuff like that. So it helps out with investments. It helps out with conversions. It helps out with just exposure without paying for paid ads. And yeah, mainly that type of stuff.
So I had the Daily Dot reach out to me and ask me if they could, work with us on a video about this, a video about that, different products. And I've had a variety of publications reach out. So how is being involved in a publication like Inc. and Forbes in their non-paid advertising? Because you can buy ad space on these publications, but right, to get non-paid advertising, like a feature article or something like that, what does that look like numbers-wise versus paying someone like the Daily Dot who's like, hey, I want to feature this video, give us 40%, net, blah, 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 blah. What's the difference for someone in e-com?
Right. So if the publications are coming to you and they charge up front, usually it's like thousands and thousands of dollars. It's huge. And even then you'll be surprised, like the stuff that the staff put out. There's like this big misconception, like if staff puts it out, it's going to get a lot of views. Like that's like not even true. You can get more views just by your own efforts than if staff was to do it. And I'll give you an example. A buddy of mine got an article written about their company from the editor-in-chief at Entrepreneur. So like the head honcho at Entrepreneur wrote the article, and they only got 12 visitors back to their website. So that's extremely low, right? Especially coming from like the head honcho.
That the print magazine, the editor published it.
Right, and he also did a print magazine. So it's online, and then it went to print. And 12 visitors back to their website. And they can track that, right? They can track that type of stuff. And like and if they were to charge, up front, and then it would cost like thousands of dollars just for that. Now, if you did it by yourself, right, or if you hired a PR firm, whatever it is, you can get a lot more. Like a lot of my clients get 10 to like 100,000 views for each of their like articles that get put out. So if whether you're a staff or whether you're a contributor, it doesn't matter, because they still have the same platform. The pieces that they push out are the ones that are doing good already, right? So if an article is doing great, these publications are going to push it out like crazy, and then that's going to help out your business.
So drop some gold. What does that mean? Because people are saying if you do it yourself or if you have a PR agency.
Yeah.
Let's talk about someone that's doing, they're barely breaking even on their ad spend, right? And so they're not going to have 10, 15 grand, whatever it costs to get this thing. What does that mean to be your own contributor?
So this is easy. I guess it's easy because I've been doing it for a long time, but there's a little bit of like tactics or strategies that you can use to get your product featured or to get yourself featured on these big publications. So for one, it's kind of what I did with like eComCon. So like I'll give you an example. You have a big name. A bunch of these people on like in this event have big names, right? They're 7, 8 figure, 9 figure earners. If somebody is doing ecom, right, and they're doing all right with their product, if they were to pitch to a contributor, somebody that writes about e-commerce, and they were to say like, I gathered up like 7 to 8 of the best e-com entrepreneurs, online, and I have their tactics for converting or for doing Facebook advertising or whatever, and I would love for you to put it up. And they, more than likely, if you pitch it right and you say like, yeah, there's 7 to 9 figure earners, they're going to be like, hell yes, like give me that piece, right? And then all you can do to get yourself featured is just input yourself within those 8 to 9 people. So if you pitched like, yourself, other people that are millionaires and stuff like that, and even if you're not in that space, but you have like some golden nuggets, if you pitch those 8 to 9, they're going to say yes. And then you add yourself and you become the 10th person. And now you just got into an article with like huge 7 to 9 figure earners. And even if you're not in that space, because you have to be ethical about it, right? You have to be ethical about it too, but you still got into an article with like major power players. And then you already know how like brand association works, right? If I'm associated with like a big name, I get some of that rub-off effect. Right. So if they do that with you or with other people, they get that rub-off effect, and that helps them out a lot. And also, if the post is with 7 to 9 figure earners, chances are it's going to get shared out a buttload because it's like massive advice from people that are doing extremely well. So they also get a piece of that pie, since it's going to get thousands of views and all that type of stuff. And you can do the same thing with a product or service, right? If there's 5 products and that kind of do like similar things, and I'll give you an example, like the Dollar Beard Shave Club or something like that. If you have 4 other people that are doing the exact same thing, and then you're selling razors as well, you can pitch that, right? Oh, I have 4 amazing products that are doing extremely well, and I have a similar one. And then you kind of just throw yourself in there. Boom, you just got your product featured. And then people who are into like shaving and stuff like that, they're going to share out the post. You're going to get traffic to your site, to your e-com site, and stuff like that.
So this reminds me a lot of, I remember Brendan Bouchard when he was first starting way back in the day. He was talking about how there's like 3 different ways to be an expert, and he goes through all this, but he says the route that he took was to be the interviewer of the experts, thereby putting himself into their sphere. So if someone wants to do this, I assume that there's various sites, there's like, contribute here, you submit it. But what are the absolute no's? They look at it, your grammar's off. It's like, no, right. we'll never accept from this guy. And is there like this blackball list? Like, what are the things to absolutely avoid to make sure you don't get blackballed?
Right. Yeah, that's a good topic. So like, what we were talking about is like getting yourself and your product featured, but this can be killer if you have an e-commerce site. So you brought up a really great point. If you become the interviewer and you interview top level people, chances are these publications are going to give you a column. Now what you said, like, what are the no's? Grammar is a big one, right? If you can't write, you're not going to write at these big sites. Another thing is if you make it really over promotional. So if they know like, your column is all about just like featuring entrepreneurs and not really providing value, but kind of like just showcasing people's stories and stuff like that, that's an automatic no as well. Cause like they have a contract to where like you can't, if you're a writer, you cannot accept payment for getting, like whoever paid you, nobody can pay you essentially, for you to write about them. So that's another big no. You'll get blacklisted on all of the sites if you do that. Another big no is not following up, right? Like if you have a monthly column or a weekly column, you have to stay consistent. Cause if not, it's like, why did they even put you on? the publication if you're not going to contribute regularly. So they always give priority to people who constantly write consistent content and content that's educational. So if you are going to feature entrepreneurs, if you are going to become the interviewer, it has to be educational. So like these publications, they're the business hub for entrepreneurs for a reason, right? It's not like Viral Thread where they're just sharing stories. They're sharing content and information so that when people read these sites, they get a lot of value from it and they want to come back.
Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense. So if let's say a brand just gets out there, one of the guys that we're interviewing, their company is just approaching 7 figures now. It's Hero Clip. And
nice.
Basically they scratched their own itch. It's a carabiner that has a little hook. Like anyone who's, running around outdoors, you try to hang your backpack on stuff. You've got a carabiner. It's always a pain in the butt. They just added a hook onto it. They hang it. They were featured in Outside Magazine, and then from Outside Magazine, it got shared all over to all of these publications. So what is their next move? How do they capitalize on the existing PR? Because I think that there's a lot of people who get it, and it's like awesome for a week.
Yeah.
And then all the inertia dies. How do you grow that inertia into a stronger force of momentum that keeps pushing you forward?
So that's a really great topic too. You only need one piece of leverage. So like after you get featured once, it's a lot easier to get featured over and over and over again. So like how you were saying, how like these other publications were essentially like just taking the post and republishing it on their site. So you can do that over and over and over again until it kind of like dies down. But so since that post was already published, you can kind of that post already did well, right? So you can kind of what posts like get shared out like that. So just create another one kind of like that. Like even if they got featured, right, you can kind of create the same thing. And then if you post it up, or if you like take that same structure and you go to an editor or whatever, and they actually post it up, that you can do the same thing to other sites. And then you just became a contributor to a bunch of other sites off of one piece. So now a lot of publications will also, they don't like to republish content. They want like content that's like new and original. But if you can take that piece, structure it to where like you can do it over and over again, and it's great. And if not, you can use it for investments. So I'm not sure how many people like in e-com get investments, but if they do, it's a huge credibility factor, right? If they see that your business is doing great, or if they see that your business is getting featured on these publications and it's getting exposure, then it's kind of like solidifying like your model in a way. So it's also huge for investments. And that's all I got for now. Like you can repurpose it, but I would just keep that momentum going by just keep contacting the different editors at different publications.
So do you recommend that everyone who's running a successful e-com site, like they've proven the product, it's working, or the service, whatever it is, that they become a contributor, or they contact contributors to become whatever the piece is written about?
Yeah, it's best if you become the contributor.
So every once in a while, so let's say I become a contributor. That means once I've passed the whatever they put you through, I can consistently contribute articles, giving gold gems, having small plugs that are kind of underneath the surface to my product or service. And once accepted, it's easier to get through the gate again. Is that kind of what I'm hearing?
Oh yeah, definitely. Once you're in the gate, it's like it's easier for any other publication. It's easier to just write content and get it accepted because you only need one, and you'd be able to get accepted easily, right? You have the credibility to back it up. And like you don't also have to just focus it on like articles, because there's a new thing right now that entrepreneurs doing. It's called like the Entrepreneur Partner Video Network. So what they're doing is they're partnering up with YouTube content creators, and they're giving them a platform on Entrepreneur. So they're sharing out their own videos. And it's like, it's kind of like if they were sharing out an article, right? If you were contributing an article, but instead it's like in video format. So if you don't write articles, if you hate writing, but you have a YouTube channel and you're crushing it with like YouTube content, then it's even better because you can create what goes on in the video. And what you can do even more is like, you can control what thumbnail you put on YouTube. So if even if no one was to, right, if you send traffic to your column and people are saying like you're an entrepreneur video partner network, even if nobody reads the article, right, because hardly anybody does nowadays, if they see your name associated with the entrepreneur, it's like it's huge for conversions, it's huge for trust, and people buy for trust, and branding. So not always, if you try to get yourself featured, can your name be in the title, can you have a featured image, right? So if nobody read the entire article, they might not even see your name, right?
Yeah. So
it could be like
one of like my ecom mentors when I first started was Ezra Firestone, and I'm still in one of his masterminds. All the respect in the world to him, but he fought to get a featured place, and I forget who it was with. But it was a local news station. Very interesting. And he took the local news station, the piece that was done on his beauty brand, and then he turned that into a long form format article that was basically a bridge article to bring baby boom lady generation, the ladies in the baby boom generation, over to his site to buy the cosmetics. And he attributes $10 million to that specific article. The year prior, they had done a couple million. The very next year, they grew by 10 million, and they can track it back to that article, and it came from a local news station. So I can imagine how something like an entrepreneur or something like that could just absolutely, if you get that kind of credibility and then you properly utilize it. So here's my question then for you, and maybe this is outside the scope, but I see, I have friends both in brick and mortar and outside online who have these articles written, but the bridge from having it written and the momentary press to monetizing it is not there. There's an absolute void. Is there a service that you provide or that someone else provides where you can say, okay, look, you had this series of articles written or you had these videos done. Now let's create a strategy around utilizing that press to increase your sales volume?
So yes and no. It's very, very hard to get somebody that's reading an article to click on the link, if you do have a link that goes into like your sales funnel or that goes to your product or anything like that. But what you can do is there's this, if you run Facebook advertising or Facebook advertisement, if you get a ton of those, you're getting a ton of press, there's this tool called Sniply. And essentially what that does is like, if they're reading the article or whatever, it kind of like, it formulates like a pixel or whatever. So that, that way you can kind of contact them through that press piece instead of like, if they leave. And cause most of the time when somebody reads an article, you have to kind of bet that they're going to click on your link to go to your, to go to your site. So out of the thousands of people, like who knows, right? Who knows however many people are actually going to click on the link. But what Sniply does is it allows you to kind of, to catch their attention while they're on the article, and you can do it like that. But no, I don't provide that service because that's extremely hard. It's extremely hard to do. But if done right, you can bring a ton of sales. Like, how Ezra Firestone did it. You can bring a ton of sales. And even if they don't click on it, it pops up in your head. So what I do is like, if I see a product online that I like, and if I read it on an article, whatever, I'll save it for later and I'll purchase it later. Like even if I didn't get it at that point in time, I'll always save it and I'll buy it later. And just because, I saw it somewhere. I was like, oh, that's cool or whatever. I want that. But it is extremely hard to do. Like it's extremely hard to do even if you have like a sales funnel in place. But also like it also comes to the point where like, even if you don't have a sales funnel in place, I know for service providers, you don't need a sales funnel in place because one of my clients that we got featured on Forbes, like he immediately got like 20,000 views on it and he made a ton of money from it. I don't know the exact numbers, but he got a lot of leads from it and he essentially made his money back really, really quickly from that Forbes article. So I know for sure if you're a service provider, it helps out even if you don't have a sales funnel in place. But I'm pretty sure the same concept applies with e-com because I know, at least for me, like I save stuff that I want to purchase later and I do purchase it later, but it might not be on the same site or whatever, but
gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, so what's trending now? Most of the people watching us have seen, I think it was a BuzzFeed graph that said, the top clicked on headlines on Facebook, this gave me goosebumps. So-and-so is freaking out about this, but that also seems somewhat sensationalized, and that's BuzzFeed. So what is the trend right now for Entrepreneur, for Forbes, for these other companies, what type of content, if someone's going to write it themselves and become their own contributor, what's the format that they want to kind of follow to get accepted? And then we'll go into, how they can contact you afterwards.
Yeah. So there's one thing that's not being utilized a lot that I recommend everybody do. And that's essentially how we got our client, or like Travel Mate Robotics, how they became like huge, in the online space and they were getting millions of views and stuff like that. So, a lot of times on Facebook, you'll see videos of like viral thread and like a bunch of these publications sharing out like an entrepreneur story, or like, another example of like a cop killing somebody of African descent or something like that, right? You see a bunch of these publications sharing out these videos. Now, what most people don't know is that you can submit videos to these publications for them to be shared out on these on like Facebook, essentially. So, if you have an article or if you have a product, if you can create the structure that most videos go by, which is like a minute to 2 minutes, and within those 2 minutes, it'll be like either pictures or short videos with like text on the bottom, with like, very dramatic music in the background. If you can do that and you tailor it to a certain publication, you can submit it to like Viral Thread. Viral Thread has a specific like link on their Facebook page that you can go to like submit your video. And if you submit it, and if you get lucky, if Viral Thread shares it out, I can almost guarantee you these other publications that share out stuff on Facebook will also share that video out. So, if you get shared out by one of them, and these videos get millions of views, right? Even if they don't, thousands of views. A lot of people watch videos more than they watch articles. So if you can kind of create a structure, like I was talking about before, for a video for each of your products that kind of follow the same structure that these publications share out, and you submit them, if you can get it, shared out, on social, then it'd be huge for your business. But if you don't want to do video content, or if you don't know how to do any type of video content, what you could do is like write articles. And then if you're a contributor for a major publication, you will have it for life unless you mess up, right? Unless you don't contribute anymore or whatever. You can essentially plug in your products every now and then for life on these publications, and kind of you'll make your money back, because even if one goes viral, right? One of your articles goes viral, like Ezra Firestone said, he made, millions off of that, right? So, yeah, hopefully I answered that question.
Yeah, absolutely, man. That's absolutely valuable. So people who are watching this, how can they contact you, and what's the service that you provide?
Right. So the only service we provide is like, we can help you get featured on these major publications. So if you're looking to get featured or your product featured, we can definitely do that for you at influencerpress.com. And then if you want to connect with me personally, I'm always on Facebook. So just search up Ulyses Osuna, and that's it. And then you should be able to find me.
Awesome, man. Hey, do you have any last gold nuggets just on your mind for the people watching as we close this interview?
If you get anything out of this interview, I really want you to take in consideration, branded, like associating yourself with these big name people, because that will kind of give you the in to becoming a contributor, to become the interviewer. And again, like my buddy does this. He writes for like the Huffington Post. He's an e-com. He's a beginner. And because he writes for the Huffington Post, he can easily hit up one of his idols, say, "Hey, I would love to interview you for the Huffington Post." And then, who's going to say no to an interview? And then he can pick their brain, right? He picks the brain of like multimillionaires, 7-figure earners, whatever. And he gets like personal mentoring just because he has access, he has leverage to writing for the Huffington Post. So like, I really, really recommend you do that. Cause like, if you need help, I can't think of like one person that would say no to like an interview at Forbes. Right. And then you can get personal one-on-one mentoring just from that. So, yeah, I recommend you doing that.
So true, dude. Awesome. Thank you so much, man. We're going to link below to your site, and we'll chat with you soon. Thanks, man.
Cool, man. Thanks.